Sometimes the biggest problems start in the smallest places. And right now, a crisis that kicked off in a tiny stretch of water is sending massive shockwaves across the whole globe. Today, we're going to break down exactly what's happening with the Red Sea crisis and, more importantly, what it means for you.
So let me ask you this. What happens when, all of a sudden, 15% of all global trade is forced to take a massive unplanned detour? It's like a key artery on a global superhighway just slams shut. And the answer to that question? Well, it affects pretty much everything, from the gas you put in your car to the phone you're probably holding right now.
Okay, so first up, let's just get a handle on the immediate big picture impact. We're talking about a world suddenly and messily rerouted. Yeah, we're not talking about a few small incidents here. In just the last few months, a constant barrage of missile and drone attacks has basically turned one of the most vital shipping lanes in the world into a high-risk zone. The Red Sea went from being a reliable shortcut to a really dangerous gamble almost overnight.
And you know what? The shipping industry didn't wait around. The reaction was immediate and pretty drastic. All the major companies, we're talking Maersk, MSC, the big players, they basically just said, nope, the risk is way too high. They started pulling their ships out, rerouting them on this much longer journey, and just like that, global supply chains were thrown into total uncertainty.
So, to really get why this is such a huge deal, we need to zoom in a bit. Why is this one little spot on the map so incredibly important to how our entire world works? It's all about geography. This brings us to a key idea, the maritime choke point. It sounds intense, right? And it is. It's just a narrow channel of water that connects two bigger bodies of water, but with a ton of ship traffic. The Red Sea route with the Suez Canal is like the textbook definition of this. Think of it as a critical artery for global trade. If it gets clogged, the entire system feels it. Now, you might look at this and think, okay, 15%, so 85% goes somewhere else. But hold on. In the world of global trade, 15% is absolutely colossal. We're talking trillions, with a T, trillions of dollars in goods every single year, all squeezing through this one narrow passage. It's a huge deal. And look, this isn't just a bunch of random boxes on a ship. What's actually on these vessels? It's the oil and natural gas that power our homes and cities. It's the consumer electronics we use every single day. It's the clothes we're wearing, and even the food that ends up on our tables. It's all floating right through that choke point. All right, so we've got the why it matters part down. Now let's dive into the how it happened. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this crisis actually unfolded and who the key players are on this giant, messy global stage.
So this whole thing didn't just pop up out of nowhere, but man, it escalated fast. It started with just a few initial reports of attacks on ships. Then suddenly, the frequency of those drone and missile incidents shot way up. That's what forced the big carriers like Maersk to say, we're out, and suspend their routes. From there, almost every vessel started taking that long way around Africa. And finally, that's when naval forces from the US and its allies had to ramp up their presence to try and get a lid on things.
Okay, so there are a lot of moving parts here, and a whole cast of characters. You've got the industry giants, right? Maersk, MSC, they're the ones making these massive billion-dollar decisions to reroute their ships. Then you have the aggressors, these regional militant groups who are actually launching the attacks. On the security side, you have the US and allied navies trying to police the area. And don't forget regional players like Egypt, who control the Suez Canal itself. And finally, you have the money people, the insurance companies, who are jacking up the risk premiums like crazy.
All right, so this is where the rubber really meets the road. Why should you, no matter where you live, care about a shipping problem thousands of miles away? Well, let's follow the money and the clock, because it all comes down to the true cost of these delays.
I mean, just look at the difference here. It's staggering. The Suez Canal, that's the shortcut. It's the express lane. Going around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa, that's the long way around. It's like taking a cross-country road trip using only local roads instead of the interstate. You're adding something like 10 to 14 days to the journey, each way.
And it's not just about time. It's about money. Big money. The insurance premiums for any ship that's still brave enough to go through the Red Sea, they've gone through the roof. We're talking increases of hundreds of % in some cases. That can add hundreds of thousands of dollars to just a single trip. And then, of course, there's the most obvious cost of all, fuel. Thousands of extra miles means burning hundreds of tons of extra fuel. Plus, you've got to pay the crew for all those extra weeks at sea. All of these costs just pile up incredibly fast.
Okay, so here's the bottom line, the part that really matters to all of us. These shipping companies, they aren't just going to eat these huge new costs. No way. Those costs, the extra fuel, the insane insurance, the extra time, they get passed down the line, from the company to the manufacturer to the retailer. And guess who's at the end of that line? We are, the consumer. That means you can expect delays for products you want, and very possibly higher prices on the shelves for all kinds of things.
So where do we go from here? The whole situation is still unfolding. It's changing practically every day. But let's look at what could happen next on the water.
Well, a few things could happen. We might see a much bigger military presence there, trying to create safe shipping corridors. But if the attacks keep up, this long detour around Africa could just become the new normal for a while, which would keep pressure on global shipping costs and, yeah, inflation. Of course, the best-case scenario is some kind of diplomatic breakthrough that calms everything down. But the scariest possibility? That this spills over into a much wider conflict. That's a very real risk.
And all of this leaves us with one last, pretty sobering question to think about. For decades, we've built our entire modern world on this idea of a hyper-efficient, super predictable global supply chain. This crisis is a massive wake-up call, a reminder of just how fragile that whole system really is. And it forces us to ask, is the era of easy, predictable global shipping that we've all taken for granted over for good?